Hey guys, it's Combi. Today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to build your very own Yeeter so you could yeet your friends across maps. And I'll also be going through all of the circuitry on how to make that happen. So yeah, this is going to be a fun video. Let's get started. Alright guys, so you're going to want to pull out your maker pen and hit create. And make sure you're set to tube because we're going to make this out of tube. Again, you can make this however you want, but this is just going to be a simple example. Make sure your snapping's to grid so it aligns to the grid of Rec Room. Your tube height scale is set to 1, so that's the circumference. And your tube facets set to 10, and I want to have smooth tubes. So yeah, let's create a handle. Again, we could adjust the size and scale of everything afterwards. Alright, so next we're going to create the actual part that eats people. I'm going to have all my settings honestly set to the same and just scale myself so that I could get different size shapes. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to edit my tubes and get rid of some extra points. Move some pieces around to make it look more uniform and symmetrical. Alright, let's move this over. And there we go. Again, it's not going to be the prettiest Yeeter right now, but you could play around and do all sorts of custom stuff to it. I'm just going to increase the node size at the end. Something I've noticed is sometimes Rec Room, the nodes don't always increase and decrease exactly how you want, so sometimes it's easier to pull the scaling to the side versus the center. But I think that looks pretty decent. Let's just move this over a little bit to get it in the middle. Alright, there we go. Now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in there, and I'll make it a shiny metal. I think that looks nice. I'm going to unclick smooth tubes, and I'm going to add some embellishments to the handle. I think that'll look kind of nice. If you clone your embellishments, then you could actually really make everything uniform. I'll show you shortly after I split the shape. And here we go. So if I want to clone this and then move it to where I want it cloned, say about here. Then if I hit clone again, you can repeat the clone as many times as you want, and it'll continue that pattern. Alright, so now I'm going to merge everything and configure it to grabbable and also decoration. There we go. So that's a very simple Yeeter. Again, not the prettiest, but you could play around with it and make it however you like. Now let's add the CV2 circuitry so that you could actually eat your friends, because right now it does absolutely nothing. Alright, the first thing you'll want to do is go over to your palette and do a search for trigger volume, because this is going to be where the interaction happens. So if someone hits this point or that point, you want them to be yeeted into the air. So let's move that over, say about over there. And I do want to configure the circuit board to be detached, so that way when I pick up the handle, it will not move the circuit board and it'll just be easier to read. Let's clone that so that we have it on the other side as well. There we go. And you'll just have to move the circuit board because it will be overlapping at this point. Next up, you'll want to get an add velocity chip. Velocity add. There we go. And we'll put that right above our trigger volume. We'll also want a vector gadget, which will show us the direction that we want to fling people in. And if you want, you could also, just use the search terms to find these items, but I sort of know what I'm looking for at this point, so it's a little bit easier. So you'll want one to face this direction, and then you'll want one to face the opposite direction. So depending on where they hit you, so if they hit you in this trigger volume, you'll go that way. If they hit you here, you'll go that way. And how are we going to keep this all together? Very simple. Instead of using a clamp, I like to use a rotator because it really functions the same as a clamp. And a lot of people are surprised about that, but if you connect the top or the cylinder part of the rotator, and you'll want to connect that to the different pieces that we're adding on to our Yeeter. So should be 4 pieces at this point. And we'll want the Yeeter itself to be attached to the main base because that's going to be what we're holding. We'll also want to detach all of these other circuit boards as well. So detaching the vector components, circuit board. As well as, well, the rotator actually we could keep there because that's really not going to impact our circuitry at all. So now let's make this all look very nice. Here we go. And let's make sure we have it matched up. So if you click on one of your circuit boards, you can see which trigger volume it relates to. So we do have this mixed up. So let's move the vectors above the trigger volumes that they relate to. Another trick is if you put your snapping to surface, you could actually snap it right to the same exact part of the grid for your circuit board. So I find that handy. All right. So now we're going to do some connecting. So we're going to say when a player entered this trigger volume, we want to add velocity. What do we want to add velocity to? We want to add velocity to the player. What's the direction that we want? We want the direction of the vector. All right. Now we're going to want to clone the velocity add chip. So it'll look exactly the same, but we're going to be using the other trigger volume. So we'll match up the player, we'll match up the execution, and we'll match up the direction to the other vector. Now, if I walk into this part, it bounces me away. If you want someone to fly across the map, you're going to want to increase your speed. So let's say I increase this to 50 and 50. Well, this will be interesting. It's really going to shoot whoever touches those trigger volumes across the map. And they might find it funny at first, but if you keep beating them, it's probably not the best idea. But let's see what happens. All right, I'm afraid. But whoa, okay. Well, that worked. We're going to test this out on a friend very shortly, but before we do, let's make it a little bit fancier. We could also add sound, and it also will show a little boom emitter So we have our SFX. Let us turn off snapping, and we'll just put that up there because we only need one of those. And then we need an emitter. We'll actually need two of these, but actually, you know what? We only need one of these because you really only have to see the boom in the center of the Yeeter. So let's detach the board here. And again, you don't have to detach the boards. I just do it because it's easier to see your circuits and understand what you did. Because once you pick up that Yeeter, everything's going to move along with it. All right, there we go. All right, so we'll want the SFX to actually line up towards the middle. And the emitter, we'll definitely want to center that one because that's going to be the big explosion. And make sure you link these up to the cylinder of the rotator so they stay with it. And let's do some configuring now. So I'm just going to turn my volume up a little bit because right now I have my sounds turned down. Let's configure what noise it makes when you hit someone. There's really a ton to choose from. We could do crowd laughing, which would be kind of funny, but I think I'm just going to go with a simple hit. Well, no, maybe not a hit. There should be some sort of explosion. Let's see. They really added so many good sounds, but yeah, we'll go with the simple explosion. You'll also want to configure it and make sure that you use 3D audio, or else everyone in the room is going to hear the explosion, but you kind of just want it to be near the Yeeter itself. Now let's configure the emitter. We'll want to configure that to explosion, and we could change the color. Let's change it to a yellow. So your sound SFX, you want that to play when velocity is added. You could link up two executions. So either when velocity is added to one side or the other, you'll play your noise. And also, when you play your noise, you'll want to play the emitter. Now, the one thing I would mention is when you hit start on the emitter, it will actually continue to emit. But the way to get around that is if you go and find a delay chip and say, all right, after a delay of, let's say, 1 second, then we want the emitter to stop so it doesn't continuously go off. So when the emitter starts, it's going to run, and after 1 second, it's going to stop. So there we go. Let's go test it out now. Oh, that was pretty cool. All right, let's get someone in the room so I could really test it out. All right, Lady Perla, are you ready?
Wait, do I have to like sign a waiver first? Like,
nope. Oh man, she's all right. Let's try this one more time for science purposes. All right, it totally works. It totally works. All right, guys. So that's how you create your own custom Yeeter. Hope you guys have fun with it. Let me know and send me pictures if you've made your own. And I hope this helped. If you have any questions, comment below. See you guys later.